Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadies.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to our year-end episode of VoteProPot-Cast. We're really so glad that you joined us today. We have the top stories from 2019. We're going to do a little wrap-up for you. We're going to see how last year's, we made resolutions last year. We're going to see how those actually panned out. I think no one will be surprised by it.
Do we have to do that?
And you know, if that weren't enough, we're going to give you resolutions for 2020. All right. And not only that, but then we're going to tell you what we foresee for the coming year in the world of cannabis and cannabis reform advocacy. Some of the top stories from 2019, I think there is really one that just stands out above the others. Jay, what would you say that story is?
No question. It's the vaping.
It is.
The vaping story. That's without a doubt. I think we all agree on that.
I don't know.
Is there a bigger story?
I think in the cannabis industry, the bigger story is the Banking Act. I think that's bigger.
Okay. Well, we'll get to both of those things.
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
Start with the vaping.
Okay, well, we all know what's going on with the vaping, and it certainly has had an impact on everything to do with the cannabis industry. What do you guys say? I mean, even the economics of the industry.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Yep.
The stocks have kind of plummeted, many of them, or stayed very level. Most of them are kind of in the basement, have lost value in the last year, and a lot of people attribute at least some of that to the vaping thing, I would say.
I remember when we first started this, when I first started VoteProPot, right back in like 2014, I was going to these trade shows. I was saying, oh man, the future is all 100% vaping. The joints are going to be extinct. Yeah. And even when we started the podcast, I'll still go, man, vaping, that's going to be the future. But now with this, and I'm seeing the medical industry evolve in Maryland. Vaping is going to be here, but it's not going to be the number one thing. And joint pre-rolls and flower is going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
it's staying atop the heap. Yep.
Right.
Well, I guess if there's any good news come out of it, the hospitalizations and certainly deaths have dropped pretty dramatically in the last 2 months. A lot of that has to do with some arrests, especially in California. They've gone in and busted some illicit manufacturers. And again, a lot of them were coming from overseas in China. The announcement that vitamin E acetate is likely
the culprit.
That's becoming more and more accepted, I think, by professionals. The vitamin E acetate, for those of you who don't know, is a material used in the manufacture it helps thicken the oil.
Gives it the right consistency for vaping.
Viscosity.
So that's right. So it can be vaporized. So anyway, I think that's a big story, and it's still ongoing. We'll see what happens, but I think a lot of the regulators in all the states are really breaking down on the whole vape cartridge manufacturing process and providing regulations and inspections and so forth to make sure that they're being manufactured in a safe way.
Do you think maybe this incident helped the people that are just against vaping altogether, even just nicotine vaping, especially with kids? They use that as an excuse to go in there and go, no more fruit-flavored, nicotine vape, legally sold products, where all those, that had nothing, no one was getting sick from the legal nicotine vape products. It was the illegal cannabis products that they were getting sick from.
To answer your question, I think yes. I think that did have an effect to kind of bolster people's already preconceived notions about it, for whether they were right or wrong about it. And mostly it turns out they were wrong, because you're absolutely right. This is, and I think even the CDC might have come out recently and said flat out, better to vape than to smoke. Smoking is definitely still much more detrimental to your health than vaping. So I think I don't think that's going to go away as an alternative
to tobacco. Absolutely.
I think this incident will have run its course. People will be a little sadder but wiser, and the vape industry is gonna come back from that.
Well, in the current numbers, I think we're up to about 50 or 55 people have perished as a result, linking it to the vaping, and over 2,000, like 2,300, 2,400 people were hospitalized. So pretty significant numbers in the last year, and we shall see what happens. Hopefully they've got a handle on it now, and the regulators are involved, like I said, and that should fix things. Let's hope.
Right. Well, to your point, Andrew, one other thing is that I do believe, or I do question, put it this way, whether the net effect on perceptions of, cannabis vaping was it benefited or was it harmed? Because, people were wrongly attributing the problems to THC.
Right.
And did the perception take hold that it was, that makes it seem like THC is that much more dangerous? Or did the perception take hold that, no, this was the vitamin E, the THC is in the clear, I feel better about THC? To your point, Andrew, the perceptions about vaping, there was a lot of wrong information put out that attributed this problem to THC specifically and cannabis vaping more generally. Do you think that sorted itself out so that that the perception more widely took hold that THC isn't the culprit and therefore is not a problem?
Well, I don't think the problem was ever really totally understood by the mass media or the public in general, because as I understand what happened was there was black market THC carts going out. Some were counterfeited to look like name brands, and that's what people were getting sick from. Now, the nicotine vape industry that you're buying at convenience stores, people were not getting sick from that. And the legal carts you're buying from dispensaries, people were not getting sick from. So the problem really was with a THC product, but it wasn't the legal ones. It's the black market thing. And if they legalize it and there's no more black market, this wouldn't be an issue.
Right. And so the fact that the THC, and the question I have is, do people get
the perception,
that the fact that THC legitimately sold in vape cartridges is not causing problems, and and realize that that's, whether those are the problem or not, that THC itself isn't the culprit.
Phil, what do you think one of the big were some of the big stories this year?
Well, I think there was a lot going on in the cannabis industry in the U.S. And I think a lot of the and a lot of the legislation. One big story is that it made a big move in the House and on several different fronts. So some of that legislation has taken a step forward. How far it goes from there, we'll have to see, or how fast. That's a big story.
Well, it is a big story, and it's the problem is the Senate. Right. It passed the House, and now the predictions were it was going to make it through with maybe an amendment or two through the Senate, but now, it doesn't look good at all.
Well, it was attached to the spending bill, and they just dropped the Banking Act and the Veterans Clause from it. So what the big vote the House did just got pretty much again. It went into the Senate, and the Senate went, never mind. Like I said, as long as Mitch McConnell's there, ain't nothing marijuana on a federal level is going to fucking even see the light of day.
Well, I wonder if that's true, or if it's just the fact that so much legislation has passed through the House. It actually, they're not really big things other than
more than ever.
The USMCA. That was a big one, but there's a lot of stuff, and Mitch McConnell has earned a nickname, the Grim Reaper, because that's where legislation goes to die, and he's got a bunch of it sitting there, and the cannabis bill's just getting in line,
Yeah. So speaking of that, a lot's going on in the United States, but one of my big stories I thought from this year was all the action going on internationally, with Canada legalizing nationally. Now all the Caribbean nations they're all getting together, going, guys, let's do this kind of together. Now you have Colombia getting into it. Jamaica's into it big time. England's exporting, setting up deals. Israel, Germany. All the Thailand's getting in. China is now in process of planting and starting to grow more hemp than any. They're going to be a leader in the hemp industry in CBD.
Yeah.
Big time. They're putting like massive industrial complexes.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and they're looking at industrial hemp,
right.
and
they have the resources to do it.
And meanwhile, all these countries are setting up international trade deals. They're setting up all these things. Meanwhile, the United States is only 4% of the Earth's population. There's 96% of the people out there, potential customers, that the rest of the world is going to cater to, and America is going to be left in the dust.
And what's the percentage of drugs that are purchased by United States?
America. I read somewhere. Yeah, it's the majority of the illegal drugs.
Illegal drugs, yeah.
But
that's a great point, Andrew. That's a big story. You know, the international market is booming, and the international cannabis industry is booming while we're sitting on our thumbs. You know,
but at the same time, international business stocks are not.
Right.
They're still stagnant and dropping and going for very little. And, what do you think is going to change that?
Well, we'll see. Well, the only thing that's going to change that is when it goes off Schedule 1 and people can actually legitimately start investing in American cannabis companies. Now, American
even
cannabis
Canadian companies are not. Showing the return.
Yeah, but then a lot of them just got overextended and they're overvalued on the stock market. Everyone's like, I got a good idea. I'm going to get in early.
Right, exactly.
No, you're not. You missed that a couple years ago.
So maybe it's just good business practice still shaking itself out, so to speak.
Right. I think so. Right. And getting back to the banking bill, I like to add one thing, and that is this guy, this senator, appropriate name is Mike Crapo. He is a Republican from Idaho who's the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. And, he's been kind of quiet.
But okay.
I call him Crapo.
Yeah.
But this guy has become a real thorn in the side of the bill in the last just couple weeks. He wants to impose a 2% THC cap on all cannabis products and prohibit the retail sale of marijuana-infused edibles or e-liquid vapor extracts. So think about that for a minute.
Yeah, that's cutting it.
That's cutting it. Yeah, I mean,
it's a poison pill.
Yeah, I mean, he's
taking away 90% of the industry.
What an idiot. So people need to reach out to this guy. Please. We posted a thing on our Facebook page last week.
Where is he from?
He's from Idaho.
Okay, so Republican senator.
Right.
From Idaho.
And he's the chairman of the banking committee.
Spell his name for us so we can...
Crapo. If you go to our Facebook page, we've got a link to a normal page that has a form you can fill out to send him a letter.
Very good. That's something you can do, folks.
That's right. Now, I think that I have a couple other stories I thought that weren't like huge, but I think I'd just like to touch on. One of the things we did a story about on the mainstreaming of cannabis culture. I think that's going to continue. Don't even get greater in the coming year. There's another big story in how people are substituting. This was a big story all year. People were substituting cannabis for opioids and helping get off. This year, Phil did a great interview with Hunter White from RAMP, what's at the Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition.
Yep.
Another big story. Another interesting story was the evolution of Joe Biden's sort of position on marijuana. After Joe Rogan sort of like read on the Riot Act,
where is Joe now?
At what time?
He's wandering somewhere. I don't know. He's in the woods looking for Hillary.
No, I mean on the issue.
It depends on what time of day you ask him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's the consummate politician.
Now he's saying that he's for medical and research and expungement and decriminalization. He's about there. Everything. Well, that's what I thought. Okay. Now, also this year we made a great relationship with Jimmy Young, who's has a great podcast out of Massachusetts.
We sure did have fun on that podcast, and him on ours as well. That was just a great special thing.
For those of you who don't know, he's working towards a 24-hour news network, internet network, cannabis news, 100%. So,
there you go.
Yep, check
them out.
Yeah. Yep.
Another big story, I think, with the California taxes, Ben, and this week again they announced that they're going to add even some more. story that I sort of like, I kind of really like that one. And that was the story we did. I don't forget who did it. Was that really strains don't matter. You know, when you're going in there, do you want to be creative, or do you want to like ride your bike or chill out? It's like,
I think that's becoming more and more accepted as far as sativas versus indicas.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was an interesting
I think
story.
It's more about flavor, don't you guys? I mean, it's more about taste.
It's all about the terpenes, quite frankly. And the other one, another one story I really liked, I was going through some of the old ones, was, remember the guy who made a weed bazooka in Mexico? It had this van.
Oh, yeah, to shoot weed over
the fence.
It was like a 2-foot diameter tube that was like, 15 feet long at the back of his van. And with compressed air or something, they were shooting bales of weed over the fence. That was great.
Dude, I have to give Andrew some credit on this one, because you did your homework. You looked up the old stories. I was too lazy,
man. That was well done, man. And gave us some good memories,
Go to our website and check out some old episodes if you want to hear some funny stuff. And
we won't talk about Phil's New Year's resolution last year. It's rather personal.
Remind me what that was, like I said, I don't do resolutions very well.
Nyctophobia?
Nyctophobia,
yeah.
I struggle with that. Remind folks what nyctophobia is.
Nyctophobia is the fear of running backwards into a brass doorknob.
Yeah.
I think we're just assuming you're naked when you do this, right?
Ugh.
Well, depends on where the door is, but I'm dealing with that fear. In fact, I can function much better nowadays around the brass doorknobs and not be riddled with fear that I'm gonna run into it backwards at full speed.
As long as we're calling Phil out, I believe you also predicted that we'd see full descheduling in 2019. How'd that go for you?
I didn't predict. I never predict. Oh, yeah. Yes, I did.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
I did. Well,
how's crow taste?
Huh?
How does the crow taste?
Well, once you get past the feathers, really not that good.
Yeah. Well, no, I can't give you shit, because we all had some pretty. I don't even remember what my
Jay,
prediction
what was yours? What was your prediction? Andrew, remind Jay what his prediction was.
Jay's was, I want to get in shape, work out.
That didn't work out. Well, yeah, I did gain about 12 pounds since last year, so.
So that's getting.
I'm supposed to lose
in
the weight.
A shape.
I see. Yeah, I'm getting in shape.
Getting
all right.
in shape. If pear-shaped is the shape you're getting into, sure.
Fuck you both.
Hey, I got no room. No room to talk. Zero.
All right. So, what was your prediction last year, Andrew?
Mine was one.
Your resolution.
I was going to do laundry. That was a big one.
Have you done any laundry?
At least once.
I'm going to double down on that one this year.
All right.
I've been to your house. I've seen the piles.
No, it's not that bad. It's not. Really, I joke when I do that. I don't do laundry every week. I'll just say that.
Hey, you're a bachelor. You don't have to.
I listened to some of the old episodes, and also, I swear I was going to go out with that. I was going on a date with a girl that I had been emailing with, an old friend. Oh, I was like, man, I'm going to go on a date with this girl, and that never happened. No.
That was Amanda, because Phil thought you said you were going to go on a date with a man. Which is cool.
Yeah, and I noticed. I listened to someone say, "You guys busted my chops."
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
You guys were busting my chops on those old episodes. I was listening to you guys. I give Phil grief sometimes, and I feel bad. And after the shows, a lot of time, I apologize. I don't bust Jay's chops because I owe him money, but
yeah, that interest.
But you guys were brutal, man. You guys were brutal. I've been joking about my manhood and masculinity, and gosh. So, guys, you have any New Year's resolutions?
For which year? Oh, 2020?
For 2020, yeah.
Well, I was actually kind of very taken by the whole Last Prisoner project. The interview that you did with Steve D'Angelo kind of spoke to me. I'm already involved with Prison Fellowship, which is a ministry that helps prisoners and their families, people who are incarcerated. And so this is an issue that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So my resolution is to become more involved and more supportive of The Last Prisoner Project. And I urge other people to do that as well, because, imagine what it would be like to be convicted of something as stupid as simple possession of marijuana and be spending time, maybe even life, for something that isn't even a crime anymore.
That's true.
I'm very adamant about that. That's
good for you, Phil. Good for you, Phil. What about you, Jay?
I think I'll get in shape this year.
And what shape was that shape?
I'm thinking like beach ball. No, I don't have a resolution yet. Eat less. Let's do that. What about you, Andrew?
I think I'm going to be more forgiving. I want to concentrate more on the future and forget about the past. And I'm going to stop really sweating the small stuff. Like I always have, but I don't know. There's bigger stuff I'm going to stop sweating. And I got another one. I want to start.
It's all small stuff.
I have a New Year's resolution that I want to start a campaign. I want VoteProPot to work with other groups and roll a world record joint, like the world's longest joint.
Who's buying the weed?
Well, we can do it in Oregon, man. They got plenty access. They got a million pounds
an ounce.
Get someone in. Anyway, but before the holidays, I made contact with a rolling paper company. We're going to maybe talk to them about it.
Yeah. We're going to have some collaboration going on. I do have a resolution.
He's stoned.
I do. Yeah, really. My resolution is for the three of us to attend more social functions related to cannabis reform.
Yep.
To get out more, to get to some of these expos
and shows. Yep.
Yeah, and help spread the word.
We did a little bit of that, but not nearly what we would like to.
I'm going to be able to do more and more because this year my mom was ill, and I was spending a lot of time with her, so it's sort of restricted amount of time. And now that she no longer needs me, it will free me up to get out there. And so this year I will have more time to do that.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So now that we've gone through what happened in 2019, there's a whole bunch of stuff just waiting to happen in 2020. What do we think some of those things are going to be? Andrew.
Why do I have to go first?
I bet you have, huh?
Inside joke.
Why do I have to go first? I'm just kidding.
Well, because,
because I was pointing at myself.
We're going alphabetically.
Okay.
By first name.
Okay, my predictions for 2020. As I was saying, I want to just run down a bunch of them real quick. I think there's going to be a big increase in the international cannabis business industry. I think other countries are going to get more ingrained. I think you're going to see more and more countries legalizing and setting up regulations quickly.
And we're going to bring it all to you.
I don't think there's going to be any federal legalization as long as Mitch McConnell is the leader of the Senate, the majority leader. I believe cannabis will. This is a hard one. Either cannabis is going to play very little or any role in the 2020 elections, or it's going to be a hot button issue. I don't know. I kind of believe it's not going to be that big of a deal. Okay, next. I think Tucker Carlson is going to launch his own line of hemp bow ties. Let me see. Next.
That's going to be a tough one, man. I don't think that's going to happen.
Not even a laugh, dude.
You have to listen to the previous show where Phil went off on Tucker. So
I went off on Tucker, and
rightfully so.
Okay. Now here's a big one. I predict that the anti-cannabis groups are going to do a major pushback. It's going to be their battle of the bulge. And it might happen during the 2020 elections.
Well, the last gasp.
I think it's going to be their last hurrah. That's going to be their kamikaze run, their bonsai run. Excuse me. And then, for last but not least, I think there's going to be a big breakthrough in medical marijuana research. I think they're going to come up and go, "Officer, we just cured, crickets or something, rickets or whatever, psoriasis."
Hey, man, if you can cure crickets with weed, I'm there.
I think they're going to come up with a cure for, like psoriasis or heart disease.
All this new research is finally going to pay off.
I think you're going to start seeing some breakthroughs.
That's a good prediction. I like that.
So what about you guys?
Well, I am going to start with a little political prediction. It was been widely reported that 66% of American citizens favor legalization of marijuana. I'm saying that by the end of 2020, that number is going to be closer to 3/4. That's going to be 75% of Americans.
Wow. Damn.
Now, it's not going to be spread evenly across the country. There's still going to be plenty of places where it's not popular. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'll go as far as 75%. I think we're going to gain 9 percentage points in the coming year.
Where's that going to happen? Where are they going to get those points, from the right or the left?
We're going to get those points from not so much the right or the left, but from housewives, suburban housewives, evangelicals, people who traditionally have been on the opposite side are going to start realizing and I think it's going to be much more widely accepted within the medical community.
And what does that do to the politicians,
and sports
Phil?
too, for that matter?
Yeah, I hope so.
So how much longer can the anti-cannabis reform politicians hold out if you have a 75% majority amongst the public, amongst the voters? I mean, how well,
that's nationwide. It's a little pockets. If they're going to, and also here's another thing. Yeah, cannabis, for some people who might favor, are part of that 66% that are in favor of legalization, might still vote for a guy who's going to stop any legalization efforts because of other issues.
Yeah, that's right.
Because those 66% of the people are not voting cannabis as a single issue. So
right. But I think it's enough of an issue that certain candidates either have or will modify their position on it. Now, we talked about Biden. He and for generations now, been against it. And now he suddenly found out that he likes it. So,
well, politicians on the left and the right have had the luxury of ignoring the topic for years.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. It's becoming front and center. Andrew made the point. It's still not a primary driver for voters. It's not the number one topic for
probably never will
probably
be.
10 or 20, and it probably never will be.
No.
It's always going to be the economy and healthcare and those things. But still, it's getting closer to the front page because you're seeing it come up in ads, and you're seeing politicians talk about it, at least on the left, not so much on the right yet. But
I think the aspect of it that very well might be the leading edge of it is going to be with regard to incarcerations, and we go back to that.
A lot of politicians are not. If they get up there and start saying, "Oh, it's a gateway theory," or "It's going to make you crazy," they run the fear of looking like idiots. But fortunately, there's not a shortage of idiots nowadays. So.
Yeah, I think that, for example, there's the Prison Reform Act that was signed about this time last year, the First Step Act that Trump signed, and it has already gotten perhaps 100,000 people out of prison. Who are in for nonviolent offenses, and of course,
not necessarily cannabis.
Not necessarily cannabis, but there is a lot of I think something in Massachusetts about release and expungement. There was a story we covered a couple of weeks ago. So I think one of the leading edge issues of cannabis reform will have to do with prison reform and incarceration reform and
criminal justice reform in general.
Criminal justice reform in general. Another prediction is along those lines is that former Mayor Mike Bloomberg, who is a vocal anti-marijuana, I won't say crusader, but that's where his stance is. He's going to change his stance as it gets further into the primary season. He's going to be faced with that at some level, and he's going to modify. He's on record as saying that legalizing marijuana was, quote, the stupidest thing anybody has ever done, unquote. And, my position is that criminalizing marijuana is the stupidest thing anyone has ever done. But I predict that there's going to be some modification in that before this primary season is over. Because he's going to stick around to the convention. He's got the money to do it. And sometime between now and July, it's going to happen.
But that is such a harsh stance to take, man. I mean, that's like he's all the way over again.
Yeah, he's got to know his audience.
I mean, nothing wishy-washy about his statement.
It's hard to soften that, you know?
Yeah. How does he get out of that, Phil?
By being a politician.
Yeah, I guess
by saying anything at any time to anybody and counting on the fact that people are stupid and have no memory.
Also, another thing I predict for this coming up year, I think people that you do not associate with marijuana are going to come out of the closet and go, I smoke weed. Or there's going to be a picture of someone like Rush Limbaugh doing a bong hit.
Right.
Or,
you know what?
I think Don Jr. doing a dab would be great.
We're seeing that already, Andrew. And we're seeing we do stories almost every episode of some celebrity coming out. And some of them are people you wouldn't necessarily predict.
This year was Tom Brokaw. That was a big one.
Right.
We didn't think that.
And a bunch more. Shit, how many stories have we done on celebrities?
Yeah, so there are going to be more of those. I believe that.
In the very near future, I think in the next month or two, you're going to see the DEA and you're going to see federal task forces raid illegal THC vape shops and cartridge manufacturers. I think you're going to see arrests by officials, local officials, primarily in LA, but in California, people who are on the Bureau of Cannabis Control, the BCC. I think you're going to see some of them go down for bribery.
Really?
There were some people who apparently were taking some cash to kind of let some of these cartridges in the tens of thousands slide through. So we'll see. That would be interesting.
California is a unique situation because since 96, there's been a medical marijuana industry.
That's a long time.
A medical marijuana industry got established in 1996 with very little regulations. So now there was all these businesses that were pretty much legally operating. But when they changed the law and made it legal for adult use, they set down a new guidelines of laws. And all these businesses all of a sudden became illegal overnight. And that's where the problem lies.
That is exactly right.
And my prediction as far as California is concerned is that they're going to look at this situation of overtaxation and overregulation, and their answer is going to be to raise taxes.
They just did that.
They're going to raise them again because someone's got to pay for those task forces, and someone's got to pay the bureaucracy to administer it, and there's got to be more levels of bureaucracy to regulate and control this stuff. And by the end of 2020, it won't be 75% of the cannabis industry in the black market; it'll be 80%.
Yeah,
they will keep raising taxes and raising regulations because that's what they know. And they're just going to keep driving legitimate business further and further underground.
Right. It's like they're punching themselves in their own face.
Because that's all they know how to do.
That's all they do. I have two final ones, and we'll close things out. They're quick. One, I think New York will pass adult use.
That'd be cool.
I think most people feel that's going to happen. But my final one is weed stocks. I think weed stocks are going to remain stagnant or maybe even drop a little bit more. I just don't see the stock market taking off as a whole, as a sector, until we get descheduling and we get the banking bill finalized and those things. I just don't see it happening. So,
I agree with you. I don't either.
I mean, I still think there's some good stocks out there, and you can find them, and you can make a little bit of money here and there. And,
I think if the banking bill was going to make a difference, it would have. It would have been baked in by now, and it's not.
I agree. So that's it for our predictions, I guess, guys. Right?
Yep. Well, we'd love to hear some of your predictions. There's got to be some people out there smarter than us, don't you think?
Nah.
Yeah, there's got to be some. Most of you probably.
I agree with you, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. Send us your predictions, man. Send us a comment,
a question, a correction, whatever your heart desires for you to say.
If you have any ideas on how we can spread the word, we'd love to hear them.
That's right. Go to VoteProPot.com or check us out at our VoteProPot group on Facebook. There's all kinds of other places you can go as well, right, Jay?
Yeah, send us an email, podcast@votepropot.com. Call our message line, 240-257-2441. Our message line has been quiet lately. Call us. Leave a message. Whatever you want to say. Tell us to fuck off. Tell us we're great. Tell us we suck. And we'll play it on the show.
Also, there's so much going on in the world of cannabis, we can barely scratch the surface on our podcast. So we try to share a lot of information on social networking. So go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter and do a search for Vote Pro Pot.
Lock me up, find me good, label me a menace to your quiet neighborhood. I don't grow no plants, the state says I can't. That's not freedom, freedom, freedom. That's the point. Smoke a bowl, I roll a joint. Do what I want, if I hurt nobody, that's the point. And if I wanna get high, why shouldn't I? That's not freedom. Freedom, freedom, that's the point. Decide what's best for you and me. Smoke a bowl or roll a joint. Do what you want, if it hurts nobody, that's the point. So let's get high, yeah, you and I. It's called freedom, it's called freedom, freedom, freedom. Oh yeah, that's the point.